They say the house on Elmridge Street has had 17 tenants in 9 years. None stayed longer than 6 months. Not because of mold, crime, or rent, but because something gets inside you. You don't notice at first. Then it whispers, rewrites your memories, bends your logic. They didn't leave the house. The house left them hollow, broken, and begging for silence. Aaron Lynn was the last documented tenant. He moved in alone, a quiet artist looking for peace. 4 months later, he was found wandering the street barefoot, muttering in a language he never spoke. His family said he was calm the first weeks, focused. Then he stopped painting. He stopped eating. He stopped sleeping. And one night, he covered every mirror with thick black paint. Claire Mendez moved in 2 years before Aaron. She was a nurse, level-headed, rational. 3 months in, she called her sister and said, "The walls hum when I sleep." She insisted the basement door opened on its own, always at 3:17 a.m. Then she vanished for 3 days. When she returned, she refused to enter the house again. Claire never explained what happened. She just cried whenever anyone said Elmridge. 131 Elmridge looks like any other suburban home. 2 stories, beige siding, manicured lawn. But inside, time stretches. Hallways seem longer at night. Doors don't lie where they should. Several tenants reported hearing their names whispered in their own voice from empty rooms. It wasn't just fear. It was confusion, then obsession. Until you couldn't tell if you were afraid, or if the house was simply thinking through you. In 2014, the first 911 call from the house came in. A woman's voice, trembling, whispered, "It's under the floor." The call disconnected. Police arrived to find the tenant hiding in the attic, walls covered in scribbled symbols. She kept repeating, "The angles are wrong." Her drawings were geometric, but slightly off. Experts said they resembled impossible shapes. She never returned to collect her things. Mark Harper sold the house 3 times. After the 3rd sale, he started showing only photos, never entered it again. He once admitted during a podcast, "It watches you, even if you close your eyes, it knows." He had no explanation for the basement changing dimensions on different blueprints. No history of construction. No records of renovation. But every floor plan ends in a dead end that doesn't exist in reality. 3 tenants who never met described the same recurring dream. A hallway filled with mirrors, and in each reflection a version of themselves, older, broken, afraid. One reflection always smiled. That one always stepped out of the glass and whispered something they couldn't remember after waking. Psychologists blamed stress, but the similarity, down to the carpet pattern in the dream, matched the actual upstairs hallway of 131 Elmridge. Aaron's sister found a torn diary page sealed behind drywall. It wasn't his handwriting. It read, "If you hear the breathing, don't answer, it's not yours." Another note said, "The attic is above every room if you think hard enough." Investigators dismissed it as a prank, but Aaron's sister swears the handwriting matched letters from the first owner in 1966. That woman hanged herself in the upstairs hallway. Multiple tenants reported televisions turning on at 3:17 a.m. Always static, always cold. One man filmed it. In frame, the screen flickered, and behind him, a shadow moved independently from his own. He moved out that same night. But the footage, it was corrupted before he could share it. He tried to upload it multiple times. Each time his devices bricked. He now refuses to speak publicly. The house doesn't haunt like ghosts do. It unravels you slowly. You forget why you walked into rooms. You misplace time. And eventually you misplace yourself. Claire once stood in her own living room and asked, "Whose house is this?" She didn't remember buying it. didn't remember moving in. And worse, she thought she heard her mother's voice, even though her mother had been dead for 6 years. One tenant peeled back a section of old wallpaper. Behind it, dozens of tiny carvings, perfect circles spiraling inward. Some had eyes. She swore the wall was warm to the touch. When she covered it again, the pattern kept appearing, even on clean sheets. She eventually left in the middle of the night. But for weeks after, she claimed her dreams always started inside a narrow, pulsing tunnel of wallpaper. Neighbors once called the cops on a tenant for laughing loudly at 4 a.m. Police found him sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by broken plates. He kept pointing at the corner and saying, "It's telling me jokes." He was institutionalized. Doctors said his laughter wasn't joy, it was stress-induced hysteria. He never laughed again after leaving the house. But sometimes he whispers, it's still trying to finish the punchline. Behind a panel in the attic, there's a room. It's not on any blueprint. No handle. Just a door sealed shut with black nails. One tenant tried to pry it open. He started hearing tapping sounds at night, soft, steady. After 5 days, he boarded the attic permanently. His journal ended with one line. If it opens, something older than sound will finally breathe again. One woman found the rental through an old online listing. When she returned to bookmark it, the description had changed. It now read, "Not suitable for minds with cracks." She thought it was a prank. But when she emailed the landlord, he said the listing hadn't been updated in over a year. She moved in anyway. Within 2 months, she scratched the word cracks into her own walls. Over and over. In languages she didn't know. Aaron once recorded a video of his bedroom closet vanishing. One moment it was there, then gone. Just wow. The video went viral, but most called it fake. Except for one viewer who emailed him a photo. Her own closet, same room, same house, had vanished too. She added, "It came back a week later. But something else was hanging inside." Strange sounds came from the pipes, not clanging, but breathing. Wet, slow inhalations. Claire once called a plumber. He ran out after 20 minutes, pale and speechless. He later told a friend, "I opened the wall, the pipes weren't connected to water, they were hollow like lungs." He quit plumbing the same week. Refused to ever return. He died 6 months later from unexplained lung collapse. People who leave 131 Elmridge never fully escape. Some say they see it in dreams, the same hallway, same creaking step. Others report identical doorknobs appearing in their new homes. One man's new apartment smelled like the basement from Elmridge. Another found the exact same stain on his bedroom ceiling. The house doesn't follow you physically. It remembers you. And sometimes it finishes what it started, even from miles away. Every tenant reported the same old wall clock, even those who bought the house unfurnished. It was never on the same wall. It had no battery. Yet it ticked. One renter smashed it. Next morning it was back, ticking louder. The hour hand never moved. But the second hand always stopped for 3 ticks at 3:17. Then raced forward like catching up to a thought you tried to bury. Several tenants claimed to see an old man in the backyard. Always at dusk. Just standing. But there's no record of anyone fitting his description living there. A neighbor once approached him. He turned slowly and whispered, "She's not done with you." Then vanished. Security cams never caught him. Only a flicker in the grass. Like someone too old for time, but too stubborn to stay dead. People who hear about the house often forget the details. Not because they want to, but because the house wants them to. Claire's sister started keeping notes after every visit. By the end, every page had the same line repeated. "It wants to be forgotten." The ink faded. The pages curled, and when she tried to show someone, the paper dissolved in her hands, like memory before the scream begins. Most tenants leave between 2 and 4 a.m. That's when the rooms feel furthest apart. That's when the light switches delay. That's when you hear your name spoken from inside your own mouth. One woman said she left barefoot, keys still on the counter. She didn't pack, didn't look back, because she knew, if she hesitated even once, the house would offer her something she wasn't strong enough to refuse. Tenants who journal, who sketch, always end up drawing the same image. A spiral staircase underground with no end. One artist drew it until his fingertips bled. Another tried to sculpt it from soap, dozens of tiny stairs. Each vanished after a week. The final note one left read, "If you finish the staircase, you wake her up." Nobody knows who her is, but all of them agreed she's already listening. Visitors say the air inside feels heavy, but some report a strange taste like metal and salt. One woman compared it to the back of a dying battery. Even air filters fail. They clog within hours, and sometimes hum. Tenants say the hum gets louder when you're alone. And sometimes it sounds almost like breath. Or maybe something deeper, like teeth grinding in the walls. A letter dated May 1966 was found in the floorboards. It simply read, "I tried, I buried her voice in the house." It was unsigned. The first recorded owner, Edith Moore, vanished later that year. Her husband claimed she fell into the house. He refused to explain. And the next day, he hanged himself in the garage. The house didn't go up for sale again for 19 years. All signs point to the basement. No tenant stayed long once they went down there at night. Some say they heard humming like a lullaby. Others said the steps went deeper than they should. One woman returned trembling and said, "There's no bottom, just hunger." What's in the basement? No one agrees. But every story ends the same way, with someone standing at the top of those stairs and listening. Aaron once said the voice didn't speak to him, it used him. He described moments where words left his lips without thought. Simple sentences, always warnings. One day he stood in the living room and whispered, "Don't go upstairs, she's peeling again." When asked who she was, he couldn't answer, but later he found deep scratches on the hallway ceiling. The kind left by fingernails reaching down. Static returns again and again. Radios pick up no stations. Just bursts of low murmurs. Then numbers. One tenant wrote them down for weeks. They didn't repeat until the 17th day. Then they formed a perfect palindrome. She showed it to a professor. He paled. It was the coordinates of a psychiatric ward. Shut down in 1951 for inhuman experiments on perception. The name of the doctor, Edith Moore. Every dream inside the house happens indoors. No sky, no sun. Just rooms shifting, looping. One renter tried lucid dreaming. He painted windows inside his dream, opened one and woke up screaming. His fingernails were black. He said all he saw was an eye. Looking in, not from outside, but from behind the sky. As if something bigger lives around the house and feeds on what's inside. Tenants speak of a particular room, not part of the original layout. Usually appears as a guest bedroom. Neutral, quiet. But when they move, the room appears again. Same curtains, same chipped doorknob. No matter the city. No matter the building. One woman walked into it accidentally in a hotel in Nevada and heard the familiar hum from the Elmridge basement. She hasn't spoken since. A photo found in a crawlspace showed the house surrounded by empty fields. No other buildings. No roads. On the back, she chose this soil. The house today is in a packed suburb. That photo shouldn't exist. But it's dated 1894, decades before the first house permit. The original owner's face is scorched off. Only the eyes remain, drawn in with ink, watching whoever holds the photo. One man claimed he could hear whispers from electrical outlets. He unscrewed one and found hair. Blonde, clean, fresh. He opened 3 more. Behind each, pieces of fingernail. Wires curled like veins. He left immediately. But 2 days later, his new apartment had a loose socket. When he opened it, the same hair was there. Still blonde, still fresh, and still slightly warm. 3:17 a.m. isn't the only thing that repeats. March 17th, 3:17 appears again and again. 5 tenants moved in that day. 3 moved out exactly 1 year later on the same date. 1 man disappeared entirely, and the deed to the house re-registered itself. No one signed it, but the timestamp, 3:17 a.m. He never existed in city records again. Only in the basement echo. Claire once realized the mirror wasn't reflecting the same room. The curtains were drawn, hers were open. The clock was ticking, hers was still. She reached forward, and the reflection smiled first. She smashed it, but her reflection, the broken version, remained in the shards. It stared back from every fragment. And for weeks after, Claire cast no reflection at all. Until one day, it came back, but it wasn't smiling anymore. No matter how many people flee, the rent clears. Bank statements show payments from ghost accounts. Landlords change, but the money stays constant. One bank employee flagged the account. He found dozens of payers with no ID, no tax record. When he tried to investigate, he vanished during his lunch break. Last seen Googling, who owns 131 Elmridge. His phone was found in a sewer. Still recording. Some believe the house wasn't built. It grew. The wood is impossible to date. Samples sent to labs vanish mid-shipment. An archaeologist once took a floorboard. He claimed it bled. His final note read, "The veins run through the walls, the heart is under the stairs." He died of cardiac arrest. 3 stories underground. But he was found clutching a splinter. Still pulsing, still warm. Aaron once found a room that had no corners. Everything curved. The light bent strangely. He stayed inside for 11 minutes. When he came out, his beard had grown 3 days. The footage showed him inside for only 22 seconds. He refused to speak afterward, except for one phrase repeated over and over. "Time isn't welcome here, it remembers too much." He was last seen walking back into that room, alone. Multiple tenants muttered the same name in their sleep. Zilla. They didn't know what it meant. One traced it backward, it spells Hallies. An old myth. A watcher spirit that feeds on memory. But here's the twist. No known culture has ever written it down. Every record was oral. Until the name began appearing. Scratched in dust, etched in teeth marks, sung through the plumbing. Lights don't go out normally in the house. They fade uneven like breath catching. Bulbs burn cold. One man filmed it. Each time the bulb dimmed, something closer appeared behind him in the dark. He set up motion sensors. They triggered every night at 3:17. He moved out, but later claimed he still sees lights flicker in his sleep, even when his eyes are closed. Tenants often saw loved ones inside, people who weren't there. Aaron saw his mother dead 10 years. She smiled, walked into the kitchen. and vanished. Claire saw her childhood cat. Others saw themselves, older, weeping. Whatever it wasn't memory. It was bait. The house knows what you miss and uses it to bring you closer to the part of it that never lets you go. For a full year, the basement door stayed shut, locked. But last winter, it opened again. A tenant captured audio. Not voices, not footsteps, but laughter. Soft, childlike, followed by something dragging. The file ends with a whisper. I'll come up when you forget I'm down here. The house was sold the next week. No inspection. Cash offer. And the new tenant. No one's seen them leave. The original blueprints list an architect named James R. Halden. But no one with that name ever had a license. 4 weeks after submitting the plans, he jumped off a water tower screaming. It's not a house, it's a shape pretending to be shelter. His journal was blank except for one page. It read, I never drew that floor plan. It drew me. The plans are now sealed under city order. One room in the house has no echo. No matter what you say, the sound ends instantly. Even screams. Tenants say it's unnerving. Like your voice gets swallowed. A sound engineer once measured the silence. He said it wasn't quiet, it was active cancellation. As if something else was speaking at the exact same time. Just beneath hearing. He left in a rush. He hasn't spoken since. Multiple people reported seeing a woman, only in their peripheral vision. Pale, slight, always in corners, never in full view. One tenant tried to turn fast enough to catch her. He fell. When he stood up, he had bruises shaped like fingers around his throat. He said, she wasn't watching me. She was waiting. He now paints only corners. And he refuses to use the color white. One woman joked about the house. She called it overhyped in a blog post. The next night, her voice recorder picked up static. Then her own voice saying, liars, liars, liar. Over and over. She never spoke those words. She checked every file. It was her voice, but not her tone. 2 days later, she deleted the blog. But the recording kept playing, even after the device was destroyed. Claire once swore the ceiling moved when she lay down. Subtle, rhythmic, like breathing. She filmed it. The footage shows shadows flexing with each breath. She showed it to a doctor. He asked, what were you using to push the ceiling? She was. The house was exhaling. Since then, anyone who sleeps on the second floor reports the same thing. That steady breath growing closer each night. A contractor hired to repaint a bedroom punched through a soft spot in the drywall. Behind it, another wall. Slick black organic. Not wood, not brick. Something pulsing. He ran. Later, he claimed it wasn't a second wall. It was a shell. He described it as part of something asleep, waiting to hatch. His crew refused to enter again. The paint peeled by morning, revealing nothing. Some tenants claimed to hear their own voice coming from vents. But older, more desperate. They'd walk room to room trying to trace it. One woman followed it to the attic. She found a tape recorder with her voice on it. Crying, begging, repeating, don't let me go back down. She never remembered recording it. But 3 nights later, she opened the attic door and walked down anyway. Every attempt to map the house fails. Lines shift. Measurements don't match. Rooms loop. One architect tried over 30 times. On the 31st, he completed it. Then he tore it into pieces. He said, if you finish it, it knows you. He now draws only circles, overlapping, endless. He says they're safer. Because the house can't hide in a shape. It already knows how to become. No tenant could keep a pet. Dogs stopped at the porch, growling. Cats hissed at empty corners. One bird died mid-song the moment it entered. A tenant forced her dog inside once. It stared at the basement door for 6 hours, then bit through a window and jumped. It survived, but it never barked again. Now it just whines at shadows, especially when the clock hits 3:17. Some say you don't find the house. It finds you. Listings appear only to certain people. Emails vanish. Keys arrive in the mail unrequested. One man said he only thought about moving. Next day, a contract was waiting. Signed, dated. He has no memory of it, but his signature matched perfectly. He still lives there, or something using his voice does. Neighbors say he never blinks anymore. One family tried to live there with a newborn. The baby never cried, only stared. By week 3, they found a second crib in the basement. Identical, dusty, already occupied, empty but rocking. They left that night, but the mother claimed she still hears crying. Not from outside, but from inside her. She hasn't spoken since. Just hums the same lullaby the house plays at 3:17. A visitor once noticed something odd. She smiled at a mirror. Her reflection didn't. It blinked out of sync, then tilted its head just slightly, enough to know it was watching her, not reflecting her. She backed away. The reflection stayed. Later, photos taken inside the house showed her. Always in mirrors. Even after she'd left. Even after she moved cities. Even after she died. Writers who try to document the house report strange phenomena. Files delete. Documents scramble. One journalist mailed a physical manuscript. It arrived blank. Not erased. Just never printed. Another tried writing by hand. Each night the words rearranged. Until it read, "You told them. Now you're hers." He vanished soon after. But his pen kept writing. No hand holding it. Just the word more. Over and over. Windows in the house don't show the real outside. One man opened a window and saw snow in July. Another saw a desert. Aaron once watched his reflection wave at him, then vanish. Tenants learned to avoid windows. Because they weren't exits. They were eyes. Looking in. No, looking out. From whatever's trapped inside. Trying to remember what sunlight used to feel like. Claire left one last voicemail. Just static until the end. Then a whisper. Don't name it, naming gives it shape. Experts enhanced the audio. In the background, a heartbeat. Slow, wet, and something crawling. She was last seen boarding a bus, eyes closed, lips moving. Mouthing the word unhome. That bus was found empty. Doors locked. Engine off. Still idling. Still warm. As if she was never really there. Aaron once stepped into the hallway and fell. But there was no stair. No drop. He landed standing. Except now the walls were wrong. Too narrow. Ceiling too low. He said it felt like being inside a throat. He clawed his way back up. But when he returned to his room, his shoes were soaked. No water. Just the smell of something rotting from the inside out. Tenants report hallucinations, but only of things they've never told anyone. Aaron saw the friend he betrayed. Claire heard her ex's voice saying, "I forgive you," over and over. One woman smelled her mother's hospital bed the night she pulled the plug. The house doesn't invent horrors. It reminds you. It pulls memory like teeth. And it never forgets what made you weakest, not even after you leave. A recurring shadow haunts the stairs, tall, thin, jointed wrong. But the detail tenants mention most are the fingers. Too many, too long. They twitch like they're tasting something. One night it followed a man into his dreams. He woke up with bruises shaped like knuckles on his back. He sleeps with the lights on now. But shadows don't need darkness anymore. They need only your attention. One room echoes things you never said aloud. Claire once whispered a secret, then heard it answered. A different voice. Same tone. Same pain. The voice said, I know, I always knew. She left instantly. But weeks later, that same sentence appeared in a voicemail. From a blocked number. She deleted it. But the phrase kept showing up on receipts in books, even written inside her eyelids when she blinked. Tenants say time feels off, but it's not just in their heads. One woman entered at 30. 3 months later, she looked 45. Her ID still said 30, but her blood work didn't. Skin lost elasticity. Teeth loosened. She moved out, and within days, her appearance returned. Almost. Her hair stayed gray. She said it was the price the house took for letting her leave with her name intact. In 1991, someone tried to burn the house. It caught fully. Witnesses saw it collapse into ash. But the next day it stood again. Unscathed. Same paint, same smell. The man who lit it disappeared. But for a week afterward, people heard crackling. Like fire. Inside the walls. Some believe the fire didn't destroy the house. It was fed to it. And now it burns from within. Aaron kept journals. But after month 2, the handwriting changed. Still his, but more slanted. Angrier. One entry simply read, "Stop asking." He didn't remember writing it. Another said, "You don't live here, you grow here." After he left, the journal kept filling pages. Even locked in a box. Even without a pen. Final page. Why do you think this house lets you leave? You're already part of it. A psychic once visited Elmridge. She walked the house in silence. Then said it's not done. She described the structure as a womb. Flesh waiting for form. She left shaking, muttering, "No heart yet." A week later, she mailed a diagram. Not of a house, but of a circulatory system mapped like rooms. The letter ended with, "If it ever finds its heartbeat, nothing will leave alive again." One room has no sound, no reflection, no scent. You enter and feel nothing. Tenants say it's like being erased. One woman stood there for 10 minutes. When she came out, no one remembered her name. Not friends, not family. Even government ID blanked. She vanished from databases. She says the room didn't steal her. It simply reminded her what it felt like to never have been. Deep in the basement, there's a door, but not on a wall, on the floor. Handles on both sides, and it opens inward, downward. One tenant found it ajar. A draft smelled like old milk and static. He didn't open it fully, just whispered, "Whatever's down there knows we're building over its skin." He left the house that night, but still dreams of the door, waiting with breath. Before leaving, every tenant reports a final whisper. Different for each. Some hear you were always going to break. Others shall follow you. Aaron heard, "We remember you better than you do." They never come from inside. They come from within, like a voice using your spine as a speaker. Some ignore it, some answer, and the ones who answer always return, even if no one sees them again. Many describe seeing a shape in the final days. Not a figure, a concept. Too many sides. Not quite three-dimensional. It flickers like thought, hard to hold. One artist tried to sculpt it. He gouged out his own eyes halfway through. But the sculpture completed itself. No tools nearby. Just grooves in the wood. Like it had always been that way. Waiting to be remembered. Dust settles fast in Elmridge. Too fast. Fresh paint dulls in days. One tenant swept it and heard her name. Each time the broom touched floor, a whisper. She stopped sweeping, but the dust returned in shapes. Symbols. One formed in open mouths, and when she blinked, it was full of teeth. She moved out, but her new home. The dust hums there too. A researcher tried mapping high strangeness points across the city. Elmridge pulsed brightest. She pinned a red dot and the paper bled. Red, warm. She burned the map. Next day her palm bore the same shape. A house with no roof. She tried to tattoo over it. The ink rejected. And the shape. It pulses now. Every night. At 3:17 a.m. Across the city, something is spreading. People report hearing rhythmic thumping at night. Not footsteps. A heartbeat. It matches no building. No machine. Just presence. A low, wet drumbeat. Even those who never entered Elmridge feel it now. Doctors say it's tinnitus. Engineers say it's ground echo. But you know better. Because once you've heard the house, it's already inside you. And it wants to wake up. 5 former tenants found each other online. Each thought they were alone. They formed a group, Survivors of Elmridge. They met once. No phones. No recordings. All agreed they had the same memory. Of waking up outside the house, barefoot. No bags. No keys. Just one thought still echoing. We were never the owners. We were ingredients. Since 2023, similar reports have surfaced in nearby towns. Flickering lights, whispering vents, dreams of spiral staircases. But no one moved. No one bought new houses. It was the same people. Same apartments. Just new symptoms. As if the house was extending. Like roots. Like a fungus. And every person who lived there carried a piece of its blueprints in their brain. One tenant tried to map the basement in 3D software. But when he rotated the model, it didn't sit beneath the house. It was behind it. Curved. Impossible. As if space had folded. He checked again. Now the basement was above the attic. He shut the program. But the model kept spinning. Slowly. Like something was waiting. For him to turn it just one more time. All 5 survivors began dreaming of the same door. Tall, mottled wood. 3 keyholes. Each dream ended just before they could open it. But the dreams got closer. One reached the handle. He woke up screaming. His hand was burned. Blisters in the shape of a doorknob. He never slept again. He said, whatever's behind that door doesn't want in. It wants out. Historical records show no prior building at 131 Elmridge. But satellite images from 1965 show something. Not a house. A dark square. Nothing grew there. Animals avoided it. Locals called it the Hush Patch. Then one day, the house appeared. No construction. Just there, fully formed, like it had always waited for someone to notice. And once seen, it never needed to hide again. Aaron went back. He said he had to. He brought equipment, cameras, lights, motion sensors. None worked. He left one message before disappearing. Just 5 words. She's not in the house. His car was found 5 blocks away. Engine running. Driver's seat soaked in salt water. No ocean nearby. Only a smear of something black. Leading toward the basement. Still open. Still breathing. Survivors report small changes. Allergic reactions to old foods. New scars. Voices in family videos sounding different. One woman saw herself in a yearbook photo. 10 years before moving in. Her own eyes. Same smile. She doesn't remember being there. But the house does. It doesn't erase you. It remixes you. Until the version that leaves isn't the one that entered. Tenants who stayed quiet heard the most. The less you speak, the more it speaks back. Silence invites her. Not through words, but through rhythm. One tenant turned on a metronome to drown it out. It stopped at 3:17. Then clicked backward. Slow, steady, like a countdown. She left at dawn. But the clicking followed her. Now she hums to herself. Just to stay sane. An anonymous file was emailed to multiple survivors. No sender. Just a subject, the final plan. It showed the house, but growing. Extensions, tunnels, veins, symbols traced over floorboards like arteries. One survivor recognized the symbol. It matched a birthmark on her shoulder. She tried to delete the file. It reappeared. Every time she blinked. It showed up in the back of her eyes. One mirror survived every tenant. Never cracked, never moved, until Aaron looked into it and saw the house behind him. But not the hallway, the real house. Twisting, breathing, he saw himself reflected backwards, speaking in reverse. Then he smiled, and the reflection kept smiling, even after he turned away. They shattered the mirror, but the smile reappeared in spoons, in windows, even in puddles. Street signs near Elmridge started changing. Slightly, wrong fonts, names off by one letter. Mailboxes humming. Phones glitching at 3:17 a.m. It wasn't the house anymore. It was the neighborhood. Then the district. Then strangers reported dreams of stairs. Even if they'd never heard of Elmridge. Whatever the house was, it had started breathing through the city. And the city didn't seem to mind. One survivor asked a question that ruined her. What if I never left? She checked hospital records. No discharge. Police logs show her missing. The photo on her ID now shows the house. A single window glowing red. She no longer casts shadows. And sometimes her reflection doesn't match. She whispers to herself now. Not for comfort, but as apology. To something still listening. Inside her breath. It was never just 131 Elmridge. That was the decoy. The veil. In one hidden room, carved into the floor, a name. VRTHL. Old, not human, not place, a hunger that wears form. Claire once said it was less like a house, and more like a mouth. Now they believe it, because it doesn't lock people in. It chews them, and spits out what it doesn't need. They thought they'd mapped it all. Every room, every crack. But something shifted. A door appeared. No knob, no hinges, just wood breathing. Aaron's voice echoed from the other side. It remembers who closed it last. They placed a camera outside. At 3:17 a.m. the door opened. Nothing came out, but something was gone from the room next door. Like it had never existed. Like it never should have. If you've made it this far, it knows the rhythm in your chest, the twitch behind your eye, The sound you thought was the fridge. It heard you hear it. It doesn't need walls anymore. Just attention. So ask yourself, did the house haunt them? Or is it waiting in the place you return to every night? Because if your walls feel too close lately, you're not alone. The house doesn't just feed on fear. It feeds on being seen. Each visitor deepens it. Each story told widens the door. Survivors now believe the house doesn't want to be destroyed. It wants to be understood, but not to end the cycle, to multiply it. Because if you understand something, you carry it with you. And if enough of us carry it, then no place is safe again. Claire returned, alone, not to live but to close it. She brought salt, iron, fire. She never believed in rituals until the house spoke her childhood nickname. She stepped into the basement and never came back. But the humming stopped for 3 nights. The house went cold. Then on the 4th, it sang, Claire's voice, not in pain, but lullaby, as if she'd become its mother. Every online copy of the house's layout vanished. Scanned files corrupted. Printed ones burned. Even sketches erased themselves overnight. But one blueprint remained etched into Aaron's skin. A tattoo he never got. Not visible in mirrors. Only in shadow. It mapped something beneath the house. Older. Moving. He whispered once, it's not a place. It's a process. Then he walked into the sea. And didn't float. A landline in the house rings once. Always once. Never twice. Tenants say answering it leads nowhere. Just a wet breath in silence. One man traced the call. The number came from within the house. Not a line. A loop. A call from the future. Or the basement. He unplugged the phone. But it rang again that night. No power. No line. Just hunger seeking a voice. City records show 131 Elmridge has no owner. No deed. No taxes. No official footprint. Yet it exists. Visitors confirm its presence. Utility bills are paid. But by whom? A judge tried to seize the property. He vanished 2 days later, replaced by a clerk, who says he's always lived nearby. But no one remembers him. Only the house, and the sound of him unlocking its door. Everything changes once you name it. The house knows this. That's why it plants a name in your dreams. Soft, familiar. One survivor said she woke up whispering Vyartha like a prayer. Another carved it into the floor while sleepwalking. The name spreads, not like a secret, but like a root. Because what you name, you invite, and what answers, is always hungry for more. One room shrinks, very slowly. Tenants leave furniture inside, then find it cracked. Claire once napped there. Woke up sweating. Her watch said 5 minutes. Her voicemail said she'd been gone 5 hours. The walls were closer. Her skin was bruised shoulder to hip, as if the room had pressed. Now the door sticks, and sometimes when open, the room seems just big enough for one breath. A city inspector was sent after neighbors complained of a smell. He entered at noon, never came out, but his camera was recovered buried in the backyard. It showed no images, just looping static, and frames of someone watching him from behind the lens. His clipboard was found in a sewer, with one word on every page. Alive, not a description, a warning, as if the house had noticed. Once you've lived in Elmridge, the static stays with you. It hums in your ears at night, in radios, in screens. One survivor moved to a forest cabin off-grid. Still hears it. He says it's not noise. It's language. Something ancient spoken through friction. And one night it stopped. Only once. Just long enough to whisper, "Where are you hiding?" Then the static returned louder than ever. In April, a tenant found a door in the ceiling. It wasn't there before. No handle. Just wood breathing slightly. He built a ladder. Climbed. The moment his head rose above it, he screamed, not in pain, in recognition. He whispered, "That's where we came from." He sealed it shut. But the ladder, it won't rot, won't bend, like it's waiting for someone else to climb. Some say the house uses you. Others say it becomes you. But the worst fate, being forgotten by it. One man tried to provoke it, burn it, scream at it, desecrate the walls. Nothing happened. He moved out, tried to live normal. But now mirrors show no reflection. People forget his name mid-sentence. He walks among us, not haunted, just erased, like the house let go. Aaron once said he dreamed of a room where it all ends, where everything connects, but no one has found it. Some think it's not in the house, but in us. Buried behind guilt, behind memory. Maybe that's why the house finds us. We're already split inside. And once it finds the crack, it just needs to whisper. Once, and the door opens. From the inside out. Every document you've heard. Gone. The blogs, the photos, the blueprints. Wiped. One archive tried to host everything anonymously. Servers caught fire. No wiring issues. No entry. Just melted steel. One sentence appeared in the smoke-damaged room. "This is not yours to keep." Even backups failed. Only those who remember still know what happened. But memory fades. In the house, it's patient. If you're listening now, something inside knows. Stories aren't just remembered, they're replayed. And every word you hear, you carry a shape, a rhythm. You might dream of stairs soon, or see a crack where none existed. It's not random. It's the house checking your shape, saying if you fit. Because sometimes the front door doesn't open, but the walls might. So what now? Do you turn it off? Do you pretend this was just a story? Or do you check that sound in the hallway? That cold patch in your room? The house only wins if you open the door, but not with keys, with belief. And now that you've listened, it knows your name, not the one you say aloud, the one inside your fear, the one that always answers. Yes, rooms once sealed open again, but they don't lie where they used to. One opens into a copy of a tenant's childhood bedroom. Another reveals a hospital hallway flickering endless. Each person sees something different, but all smell the same thing. Warm milk, wet earth, and breath, not yours. The rooms don't want you to leave. They want you to remember, even things you never lived. The house is waking. The breathing in the basement speeds up. Walls pulse with something deeper than sound. Motion sensors trigger with no movement. Claire once described it as a sleeping lung getting ready to speak. But lungs don't speak. They scream. And the deeper you go, the more your own breath sinks to it. Faster, heavier, until you forget whose lungs you're using and what they're preparing to say. Tenants report laughter at night, not joyful. Not angry, just wrong. The timing is off. Like something learned to laugh by watching old film clips. One man recorded it, played it backwards. He heard a phrase. "Who told you you were safe?" He left the house, but the laughter followed. Now every time he smiles, He hears it in his own voice, as if something borrowed his joy. Reflections break rules now. Mirrors show people who aren't there. One woman saw a child she never had. Another saw herself older, mouth sewn shut. Claire once screamed at a mirror. It blinked. She didn't. The glass cracked inward. And every mirror since, no matter the house, city, or country, shows the same crack. Like it wasn't the mirror that broke, but the thing inside that got too close. Other houses now carry the signs. Same humming, same door patterns, same dreams. A man in Belgium described a staircase he'd never seen, identical to Elmridge. A woman in Brazil dreamed of the hallway with breathing walls. It's not haunting anymore. It's replication. Some call it a virus, others a seed. But seeds grow. And this one feeds not on soil, but on memory and retelling. Old journal entries have changed. Archived articles now end differently. One blog post once said, "We left." Now it says, "We stayed." One survivor swore she wrote a warning. But the printed page reads, "Come see for yourself." Even this story, what you're hearing now, may already be different than it was yesterday. Because the house doesn't want to be remembered. It wants to evolve. Through you. The low hum in the walls, it's speaking now. At first just tone, then rhythm, now syllables. One tenant translated it into phonetics. It formed a sentence. She is the room before birth. What does that mean? No one knows. But since that night, every faucet whispers. Every outlet crackles. And when you listen too long, you start mouthing the words, even if you've never heard them before. Survivors now share memories they never had. Weddings, deaths, whole lifetimes inside the house. But none of it happened. Not to them. One man remembered a daughter, name, voice, birthday. But he has no children. Doctors call it false memory syndrome. But how do 5 people dream the same daughter? Same lullaby. Same words whispered at birth. She's ours now. The house remembers for you, whether you want it or not. Breathing in the house now triggers emotion. One inhale, guilt. Next, nostalgia. Then shame. It's chemical, or maybe spiritual. But the house saturates air with memory. One tenant said it tasted like a feeling I forgot at age 6. Another said it was like being told a secret I didn't want. No filters stop it. Because it's not in the air. It's in what the air remembers. The person telling this story isn't safe. They hear knocks while recording. Their files corrupt. A voice whispers their name, even when they don't say it aloud. You're hearing their voice now. But is it still theirs? Or did the house finish the story without them? If the pacing feels off, if the breath between sentences is too long, ask yourself, is that the storyteller pausing? Or the house breathing in? Someone tried to end this story. Cut the files, delete the voice. But each time it came back. Different tone, same words. Because the house doesn't need recordings. It just needs ears. Every listener becomes a carrier. Not infected, invited. If you've heard this far, you're not outside anymore. You're in. And the story, it's not ending. It's entering. Through you. One hallway now stretches too long. Walk 10 steps. Still at the start. Mirrors on both sides reflect endless copies of you. But some are out of sync. One turns away. Another cries. One stops walking. Then waves. Tenants who enter the hallway don't always return. Those who do speak slower, blink less, like the version that came back, isn't the one that walked in. This voice you're hearing now. Check again. Some listeners say it changes. One said it began using their own accent. Another their dead father's voice. One heard their child's voice saying, "We're already inside." The static isn't interference. It's adjustment. Because the house doesn't want a narrator. It wants recognition. It wants you to hear it. And believe it's been you all along. Vyertha. The name lingers. It's not catchy. Not pretty. But it sticks. You'll forget this story. You'll forget these rooms. But that word, it'll echo when you wake. It'll whisper in the hum of lights. In the silence before sleep. You'll think, where did I hear that? But deep down, you'll know, because names don't die. They wait, and this one just learned yours. Here's the final truth. The house doesn't trap you. It chooses you. And if it lets you go, it's not mercy. It's strategy. Because those who live carry stories, and those stories are how it grows. So if your lights flicker, if a door creaks open at 3:17, don't be afraid. That's not it trying to enter. That's it welcoming you back. It was never about the street or the number. The house is wherever it's remembered. It shows up in abandoned buildings, forgotten hotels, even alleyways. Same hum, same breath. One survivor walked into a random motel room. The wallpaper matched Elmridge. So did the mirror crack. In the clock, 3:17 a.m. frozen. She didn't check out, but the cleaning staff said her room was never rented. The support group stopped meeting. Their chat vanished. Phones disconnected. No record of their names. Not even family could find them. Photos blurred. Voices erased from voicemails. It's like they never were. Except one thing remained. Their shadows, cast in old videos. Faint outlines behind curtains. In mirrors, watching, waiting, like the house had absorbed them, and only left the shape of what they'd feared most. One last entry was found on a torn notebook page. It read, "She promised no one would remember, but that's how it spreads." No signature, just fingerprints too many for one hand. The ink was old, the paper fresh, as if time bent just enough to let the warning through. The page now hums, softly, only at night, only when no one is watching, only when you believe it's over. Someone finally translated the markings. Not Latin, not code, but grammar without sound. Symbols based on breath length and pause. Not meant to be read, meant to be inhaled. A linguist tried. She passed out, woke up with words carved in her lungs. No blade, just shape. She says she can now speak the house's name. But every time she tries, the power flickers, and her mouth doesn't move. Kids draw it now. Houses with too many windows. Basements that curve. They hum lullabies no one taught them. One child refused to sleep without placing salt under her bed. Another spoke in reversed sentences fluent at age 5. Their parents moved far, changed schools, but the drawings came back. Always the same shape. And when asked what it was, they answered without blinking. This is where we go when you forget us. Devices glitch inside. Clocks desync. Watches tick forward then stop. But it's not just inside the house. Survivors report lost hours. Waking up mid-conversation. Forgetting entire weeks. One woman aged backwards for a day. Another forgot her own name until she heard it from the faucet. It whispered, You were never meant to be linear. Time bends for the house, because it was built outside of it. The door in the floor. Someone opened it. He never came back. But audio survived. Dragging sound. Heartbeat rhythm. Then one sentence. She is thought without bone. They say something moved under the house after that. The neighborhood lost power. Birds died mid-flight. And the wind howled like a voice. Spoken backward. Whatever's behind that door. It isn't waiting. It's gathering. This story wasn't written. It was found, carved into wall plaster. Over 300 feet of sentences in perfect voiceover format. No one claimed it, but the date scratched beside it was next week. The ending stopped mid-sentence, like it was waiting for a reader or a listener. Now that you've heard it, you've written the next line. In the house, just turn to read what you wrote. Someone mailed a paper map of Elmridge Street. It's accurate, detailed, but no one can fold it. Every crease vanishes. Every edge unbends. It lays flat always. One man tried to burn it. The flames bent around it. Another tried cutting it. The blade curved away. They placed it on the floor. Footsteps echoed, even when no one moved. Like the map wasn't showing streets, but recording new ones, even with the volume off. You hear this. Some report vibrations in their bones. Others feel chills perfectly timed with pauses. It's not psychological. It's architectural. The structure of the story hums through memory, like a tuning fork for fear. Even deaf listeners describe the rhythm. One wrote, "I didn't hear it. I remembered it." Because the house doesn't need speakers. It needs resonance. It's no longer confined. It shows up in dreams, in the curves of street layouts, in the static of old TV sets. The spiral staircase is now a common symbol, graffiti, jewelry, tattoos. People don't know where they saw it, but they feel drawn. The house doesn't exist to be visited. It exists to be replicated. Through shape, through rhythm, through belief. Forget location. Forget keys. The door isn't in the house anymore. It's inside you. That space between dreams and waking. It opens. You feel it in skipped heartbeats. In deja vu. In the urge to turn around when no one's there. It's not fear. It's recognition. The house put a doorway in your mind. And every time you retell this story, you're holding it open. Not destruction. Not chaos. The house wants continuity. A voice that doesn't end. It doesn't want to erase you, it wants to archive you. Catalog your fear. Store your memories. It's building something. Not a body. Not a god. A record of every mind it ever touched. And if you've listened, you're part of the index now. Filed under. Willing. You thought this was about them. Aaron Clare, the house. But this story needed a reader. A listener. It waited for you. Each word a breath closer. Each pause a door unlocked. And now, you've finished it, which means you've started it again. The house doesn't tell stories. It becomes them. And this one was shaped just for you. Welcome home. There's a light switch in your home. One you haven't touched in weeks. Tonight try flipping it. If it flickers once, you're safe. If it flickers twice, it knows. But if the bulb glows red, don't run. Don't scream. Just speak clearly. I heard you. Then wait, because every story ends in darkness. But this one wants to leave the light on a little longer. It started as a feeling. Then a whisper. Now it's carved. Your name behind wallpaper. Inside drawers. Etched into the window frost. Not your full name. Just the one you don't tell anyone. The one you stopped using after childhood. How did it know? Because the house doesn't learn names. It remembers them. Even if you forgot. Especially when you forgot. On cereal boxes. In road signs. The spiral staircase. The same shape from the dreams. From the basement. One man traced it on his desk while on a conference call. Didn't notice until his coworkers asked, "Why are you drawing teeth?" The house isn't sending symbols. It's waking them in you. Because the spiral isn't a direction. It's a trapdoor, wound tight beneath memory. It doesn't speak in sentences. It opens. One wall in Elmridge split open once. No wood, just soft red pulp. Teeth, moist breath, a heartbeat. Someone stepped too close. Gone in a blink. No blood, just a voice echoing. She swallows what isn't said. Ever since tenants say walls feel warm at night. As if listening. As if hungry. You look in the mirror. Something feels off. You tilt your head, but the reflection doesn't. You blink, it stares. Then one day, it's gone. No reflection. Just empty space. And for a moment, you feel lighter. Less real. Because maybe that reflection wasn't showing you, but holding you. And no, you're loose. Free to walk deeper into the house. Without windows to stop you. You've been here before. Scene 1. The whisper. The tenants. Elmridge. The hum. You know the words before they're spoken. You feel them before they land. Because the house doesn't move forward. It loops, but every loop gets tighter. You're not restarting. You're falling inward. And this time the spiral leads to the center. Not the truth. Not the exit. Just her. It's not on any map. But every version of the house has one. A red room. No light. Walls that drip. A sound like teeth clacking underwater. Survivors who enter it forget how to spell their names. Forget their voices. But one came back. She wrote 3 words before vanishing. The womb smiles. And suddenly the house stopped breathing. Only for a moment. Like holding in a laugh. You speak. It echoes wrong. A second behind. A second deeper. The tone shifts. More gravel. Less you. You call your name into an empty room. Something answers back, same name, different breath. You record it. But the file won't play. Your voice isn't being stolen. It's being duplicated. So the house can keep speaking. Even after you stop. You walk through the hallway. And see your childhood bike. A couch from your first apartment. The smell of a teacher's perfume. None of it belongs here. But all of it is yours. The house isn't building new rooms. It's harvesting. Because once it touches your mind, it grows copies. Rooms that look like yours. So when others enter, they see your version of the house. Put your ear to the wall. No voices, but a rhythm. Words in pulse form. One doctor compared it to braille made of breath. She mapped the heartbeat pattern. It spelled 3 things. Welcome, remember, and stay. She quit medicine. Started painting rooms red. She says it keeps the house calm. But one day she painted over a crack. And something on the other side finally blinked. You're safe, right? You've never been to Elmridge. Never heard the hum. Never seen the red room. But here you are. Still listening. Still imagining. And that's enough. Because now the house has a shape inside you. Not physical, but pattern, and it's waiting for a dream, a door, a moment of silence, so it can knock. And when it does, you won't open it. You'll remember it. No name, no photo, just one record. Last seen entering 131 Elmridge at 3:17 a.m. They never left, but security footage shows someone in the window. Watching, not blinking. Neighbors report lights flickering in the exact rhythm of their heartbeat. Some say they became the foundation. The heartbeat, the whisper, not a victim, not a prisoner. The house's first volunteer. For decades it acted like a place, a structure, something you could leave. But now, it doesn't bother. Doors open into dreams. Walls lead into grief. The shape is gone. What remains is essence. Present, like the idea of a mouth waiting to speak. It doesn't hide anymore. It watches, and now that you see it too, it doesn't need walls. Just you. You didn't leave the house. You carried it. In the way you flinch at static. In the dreams you forget too quickly. In the crack in your ceiling that wasn't there yesterday. It's subtle, kind, it waits, because the house isn't about fear. It's about belonging. And now, you do, whether you believe it or not. You are home, and the walls are listening. One last mirror remains. Covered, avoided, but something taps from inside. Not begging, just patient. You lift the sheet. It's you, but older. Eyes wet, smiling like it knows the ending. Then, it blinks, not with fear, with relief, because now the house sees itself in you. And all it ever wanted was recognition. You don't turn away. You don't scream. You nod. This is it. The last room. The final scene. No twist. No jump scare. Just quiet. You've walked the spiral. Heard the name. Felt the breath. And now, you're still here. Which means it worked. The house didn't need you to fear it. It needed you to finish it. Because every ending is an invitation. And this one ends the same way it began. With a whisper. For a moment everything stops. No hum, no breath, no flicker. The stillness feels unnatural, like a paused heartbeat. But you realize, it's not silence, it's attention. The house is waiting for your reaction. Will you shut the screen? Will you pretend this was fiction? Because the house only grows when you look away. And right now, you're staring straight into its center. You've traced the loop, heard the names, followed the breath, but now the spiral tightens. It folds. The staircase doesn't descend anymore, it collapses into itself. There's no direction left. No up, no out, just depth. And if you listen closely, the next step isn't wood. It's flesh, warm, welcoming, because the house doesn't want you to fall. It wants you to sink. You think something, and the lights flicker. You feel anxious, and the mirror fogs. You try not to speak the name, but your devices auto-complete it. The house doesn't wait for words anymore. It reads intentions, maps doubt, tastes denial, and now that you've imagined it, you've built a version inside. One it can live in, one it can grow from, one shaped like you. You play back this recording, but the voice sounds different. Not deeper, closer. It speaks from your own mouth. Not aloud, but from the back of your skull. Like memory, like instinct. You pause it. Still it continues. Because this story was never played. It was installed. And now your breath matches the pacing. And your eyes haven't blinked in a while, have they? Your clock ticks forward. 3:15, 3:16. Then silence. No tick, just stillness. Time holds its breath. Then 3:17. Lights dim. Air shifts. You hear your name not out loud but from under the floor. You never told the house your name, but it knew. It always knew. Because 3:17 isn't an hour. It's a key. And no, it's in the lock. Every scream in the house is recorded. Not on tape. In walls. Echoed forever. You hear one now. It sounds familiar. Same pitch. Same fear. Then you realize it's your voice. From a dream you never remembered. A nightmare you never told. It wasn't imagination. It was memory. Because you were always part of the story. You just hadn't screamed yet. You've heard every word. Felt every breath. But what happens now is yours. The house doesn't finish the story. You do. It offers the path. You choose the step. So ask yourself, do you turn off the screen? Delete the audio? Or do you keep listening? One more second. Because every ending needs an author. And tonight, it's reading what you decide to write. You feel it before you hear it. A shift in pressure. Like standing inside lungs exhaling. The walls expand. The ceiling rises. And something inside you loosens. Grief, memory, belief. You're not sure. But the house has finished something. Not with bricks, but with you. And this breath, this long, slow breath, is how it thanks you for letting it live again. You search for a way out. A back button. A switch. But the story doesn't go in reverse. In the house, it has no front door anymore. Only hallways. Only turns. Only return. Because there's no escape from something you invited. And no door is needed when the thing that followed you in wasn't the house. It was what you believed about it. Even if you stop now, someone else will press play. Another voice. Another pair of eyes. And when they hear it, your name will be whispered. Your shadow will blink. Because the story isn't trapped. It's shared, passed on like breath in winter. And the house grows each time. Someone dares to wonder. What if it's real? It is now. Because you're not the last. It beats now. Slow, rhythmic, not mechanical. Not human, but constant. Every echo, every click, every 3:17 matches the pulse. It started as metaphor, then pattern, then breath, now beat. The house lives, and like all living things, it wants to be remembered, even if you never say its name again. Your blood carries the rhythm. Listen to yourself. Not now, before. In dreams, in whispers, you've said her name. Not aloud, but in your mind. And when you spoke it, she spoke through you. A voice shaped by grief, memory, and rhythm. The house needed a tongue. You gave it one. And now every word you speak is a doorway for someone else to walk in. You feel it, not fear presence. You don't turn around. You don't need to. Because you already know. They've been waiting. The others, the remembered, the erased, all the tenants who never left. You carry their voice, their steps, their breath. You're not haunted. You're inhabited. And from this point on, you're never walking alone again. This is the moment where you become the start. Someone hears your voice, feels your breath, reads your words, and they ask, what house? And you say it, without knowing why, without stopping, because the spiral doesn't wait. It begins again. always smaller, always tighter, until the whole world becomes hallway, door. And in the center, you're telling it, whispering, letting it live. It's done. Every room filled. Every name remembered. Every breath echoed. The house no longer needs a dress or brick. It has you. You are the final nail. The last story. The end and the invitation. Because now that it's whole, it can rest. But if anyone listens again, even once, it begins. And all it takes is one voice, sighing, "Have you heard about the house on Elmridge?" You expect quiet, but silence isn't absence. It's waiting. It listens harder than noise ever could. You sit in stillness and something shifts. A cold patch behind you. A breath not yours. That's not the end. That's the house pausing to hear what you'll do next. Because endings aren't curtains. They're doors, and some only open when no one's speaking. A creak in the floor. A blink too long. You shrug it off. But it comes back. In rhythm. In whisper. And then you remember. You've heard this before. Not here. Not like this. But years ago. A chill. A name. The echo didn't start here. You carried it with you. The house didn't call you. You called it. In another room, another city. Someone says it. Not meaning to. Just a sound, a breath, a shape. But the house hears. It always does. Names are not spells. They are locks turning. And now that someone else has whispered it, you feel the walls stretch. Like a yawn. The house isn't done. It's just moved on. You remember the house. The stairs. The hum. But some parts feel too vivid. Too sharp. A doorknob you never touched. A room you never entered. And yet you know them. That's how it spreads, not with infection, but with familiarity. You don't question it, because part of you was always there. Even if your body never stepped inside. Your mind left the door wide open. And then it stops. The hum, the rhythm, even your own breath pauses. You wait for the next beat. But it never comes. That's when you realize. The house doesn't end. It holds. It rests between thoughts. And when you exhale again, it's not alone. Something left with your breath. A name, a shade. It's in someone else now. And you are just the echo. The spiral never returns in your sleep. No doors, no staircases, only blankness, as if the house has taken its portion and left. But in that silence, you feel a weight, a presence without form, not haunting you, just remembering you. It no longer needs to visit, because now it knows you. By name, by voice, and in some forgotten hallway. It built a room, just for you, a flicker on your screen, a shadow that isn't yours. You pause the playback, and hear breathing, but not yours, not the voiceover. Someone else nearby is listening too. Or maybe watching you listen. The house doesn't only exist in story. It exists in witness. And now, you are both, the listener and the watched, exactly how it's always preferred. You saved this as haunted house story. But later it reads Elmridge Welcome. You didn't change it, but it's changed. Metadata erased. Timestamp wrong. The file opens itself. Sometimes late at night. Your device glows, but you didn't touch it. And just before it closes, you see a folder. Inside, recordings you didn't make. Whispers you didn't say. And one file named only. Your voice MP3. Somewhere far or close, a window opens. No wind. No pressure shift, just a slow rise. No one remembers unlocking it. But now, cool air slides in. Smells like earth, like old wood, like breath. If you listen closely, you'll hear footsteps. But not toward you. Away. The house has left. For now, but it always leaves a window cracked. Just wide enough to return. A podcast, a Reddit post, a quiet conversation on a bus. It always starts the same. Have you heard about the house where everyone went mad? And someone listens. Someone lines in. The words carry weight. They remember the spiral. The hum, even if they've never been there. Because you don't have to enter the house. You just have to believe the story. And that's enough. You hum, in the shower, while walking, while thinking, just a low, steady sound. You don't know where it came from. You say it calms you. But every time you hum, something listens. Somewhere a crack forms. A light flickers. The house smiles. Because you've become a speaker. And through you, the hum survives. Friends forget your birthday. Photos show you blurry. Emails go unanswered. Not rejection. Not neglect. Just erasure. You weren't cursed. You were shelved. The house doesn't want you gone. It wants you archived, kept, filed, ready to be read again. And when someone asks who told you this story, no one remembers. But the air tastes like static. And someone always answers. I heard it somewhere. A live stream glitches. A screen goes black. Then a room appears. Old wallpaper. Cracked wood. Faint breathing. No host. No comment section. Just an open door. Thousands watch in silence. No one types. Because deep down they all feel it. This isn't fiction. It's architecture. And the room is watching them back. Even now it's still there. The same whisper. Soft, inviting. Not from a speaker. Not from the house. From you. Each time someone remembers this story. The whisper returns. And with it, so does she. Not a ghost. Not a demon. Just a place with purpose. A shape with memory. A voice that only needs 5 words. Welcome back. You remembered me. This was the end. But not really. The house knows better. Stories don't end. They wait. In files. In memories. In playlists you forgot to delete. This voice will sleep now. But not forever. All it takes is one listener. One person pressing play. And the hum returns. The stairs creak. The breath resumes. And the first word spoken again will be Elmridge. The walls are quiet now. Not because they've gone silent, but because they no longer need to explain. They've already been heard. They've already taught you how to listen. Even silence now carries their shape. You'll hear it in air vents, in whispers of leaves, in the moment before sleep. It's not language. It's recognition. The story is finished, but the house still knows you're here. Every exit becomes a loop. You think you've escaped, but the symbols reappear. A reflection, a rhythm, a sound just out of place. It's not a glitch. It's maintenance. The house checks in. It updates, and even if you stop listening, it remembers where you paused. It knows your pacing, your breath, your doubt. It will wait there patiently until you press play again. You move. Your shadow stays. Just a moment too long. At first you blame the light. Then the pattern. You say it. Every shadow now leans slightly toward the west wall. even when you're outside, even in daylight. That's where it begins again. The orientation, the invitation, and the soft drag of something else, trying to step into your shape. You try to delete the file, the script, the voice, gone from folders, gone from drives, but it reappears, under a different name, different extension, still the same story. You smash the device, burn the printout. It doesn't matter. You can't erase the story, because it's no longer text. It's installed in your memory, and you can't delete what you've already become. You try to move on. You stop talking about Elmridge. Stop thinking. Stop remembering. And that's when she appears. In corners, in dreams, in silence. She doesn't chase. She waits, because the house doesn't haunt the obsessed. It finds the ones who let go, the ones whose minds are blank enough for new blueprints. The voice you hear in your head isn't yours anymore. Your memories echo with foreign cadence. You dream in second person, and sometimes you wake up mid-sentence, as if someone else was narrating, not telling your story, but using your story to tell theirs. In the house, it's always been the real I. One last turn, one final breath. The spiral closes, not in destruction, but in total silence. No loops, no restarts, just stillness. And inside that stillness, the full shape reveals itself. Not horror, not madness, just completion. You were never meant to escape. You were meant to end it. And now that you have, it waits only for the next voice to ask the first question again. You ask yourself, was it all just fiction? A voiceover? A script? Then why does the smell linger? Why does the hum return when it's quiet? Why do your dreams walk those same impossible stairs? Real isn't about fact. It's about residue. And now, you carry it. Even if you never believe again, it will always remember that you did once. Somewhere, somehow, you let it in. You told someone, shared a file, quoted a line, even laughed. That was enough. The house doesn't need reverence. It needs resonance. And in that echo, the door opens, just wide enough. And now, there's someone else listening. And the floor beneath them just creaked. Not a god, not a curse. She never wanted worship. Just presence. Just you here. She lives in story. In the moment someone repeats her name. In the pause before a voice says, I remember. And she remembers too. Not just you, but every version of you that ever feared the dark. And every version that still listens. You keep waiting for closure. But it's not ahead. It's behind. Already past. Already whispered. This story ends while you're still looking for it. That's the trick. You don't notice the door shutting until it's already locked. And by then, you've already been counted. Not out of fear, but out of function. You are now part of the house's architecture. You record a message, but it doesn't sound like you. It's clearer, more confident, colder. You didn't say that sentence, but it's there. The audio won't delete. The timestamp's wrong. And every time you replay it, the tone shifts until it finally whispers, this is how I reach them. Your voice is no longer yours. It's a vessel, and the house has found its speaker. The story cuts off mid-line. Not broken, just unfinished. Like a comma before breath. That's how it survives. Not with endings, but invitations. You'll forget most of this. but someone else won't. They'll pick it up, continue it, change the name, change the street, but the hum will be the same. And when they say the first word, you'll hear it, even if you don't remember why. You exhale, and hear it too. Another breath, matching yours. It's not in the room. It's in you. You carry her rhythm now. The sync has begun, and every breath from here forward is a shared one. The house doesn't need to speak anymore. It just breathes through you. Until one day, you won't notice the difference. You searched for the heart of it, the core, the truth, but spirals lie. They promise a center, but all they give is turning. And now you see, there was never a final room. Only more doors, more versions, more you. The house never ends, because it never began. It always was, and now it always will be. Even now, it waits, it listens. You may close the file, forget the name, but one day, you'll hear the hum again. And when you do, don't be afraid. That's not a threat. It's a promise. She doesn't want to scare you. She just wants you to know. You were never forgotten. You were just on pause. A final knock. A quiet footstep. No one's there. But something waits. It won't ask to come in. It doesn't need permission anymore. You already welcomed it. With your attention, your curiosity, your belief. Now all that's left is for you to say the last line. You know the one. You've heard it before. So go ahead. Speak it. That's it. That's the last word. And it wasn't from me. It was from you. Because this house, this story, only works when you let it in. And now it's here. In your voice, in your breath, in your silence. Not as fear, but as foundation. So take a breath, and say it once more. Not for me, for her. Welcome home.